Welcome to Success with award-winning journalist JoDee Kenney. Hear the secrets of success from brilliant minds in the business, entertainment, literary, and fitness worlds, and JoDee Kenney herself.
Okay, we are recording.
Alrighty.
See you guys, JoDee. We'll see you.
All right.
We
appreciate the support of the wonderful sponsor, Ghana Pictures, complete cinematic video production services, GhanaPictures.com. Thank you so much, Ghana. We appreciate you. Ghana's walking out the door to set us up for our interview.
He got it done.
So I am talking with Taekwondo Master Mechelle Smith. I'm going to give you a little information. I'm going to tell people a little bit about you before we start our interview, okay? Okay.
Sure.
Master Mechelle is a 7th degree black belt. In 2003, she was inducted into the U.S. Martial Arts Hall of Fame. She is the women's middleweight gold champion from 1987, 88 in the middleweight class division, and then the women's middleweight U.S. Olympic team trials champion. In 1988, she was the U.S. Olympic team middleweight B team member. In 1991, she was a women's middleweight gold champion. And in 1992, she was the women's middleweight Pan Am American A team member. She is a 14-time national champion at AAU, 4-time national champion USTU, and she has many, many accolades that we're going to talk about today. Master Mechelle, thank you for talking with me.
Hi.
I am so excited, first of all, to talk with you.
Thank you. Me too. I'm excited to be here.
So, you are very well known. I mean, I think everybody in the capital region and many people across the country know who you are. You've been in the game for a long time.
Yes.
How did you get involved in Taekwondo? Bring me back to the beginning of Mechelle, as we know her now.
All right, as we know me now, it was me being a wise guy. Good friend of mine, John Mechelle, who currently resides in San Diego, wonderful martial artist. Him and I went to high school together, and I saw him practicing his little moves in the gym one day.
What year was this?
This had to be when I was about 16, almost 17.
Okay.
So, and he was constantly getting picked on by kids and, whatever, and he never really did much. And so I saw him practice little moves, and I was like, you don't know anything because, you let people push you around all the time. And he's like, well, I do. I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, but we're not supposed to use it for that, and I can take care of myself if I want to. And I'm like, yeah, right, whatever. And he was like, come and watch a class. And I was like, okay. So I went to class with him one night. I sat and watched it and knew that was me. I knew it. And my 17th birthday was coming up, and I went home and begged my parents, I don't care, I just sign me up. And they signed me up on my 17th birthday, and that was it.
So you started at age 17?
Yeah, I started late, 17.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So what was it like training? I mean, because nobody today knows you as the white belt Mechelle.
Yeah, it was crazy because I was extremely introverted, which a lot of people don't know. I was bullied terribly through school, and wouldn't look people in the eye, wouldn't speak up for myself, the whole 9 yards. It actually took me until green belt to do my first key up.
Really?
Yeah.
Which everybody, a key up is where you're contracting your stomach.
Releasing that energy.
And releasing the energy with the noise. Okay.
Wouldn't do that. Would not let the master instructor, Master Les Zampino, wouldn't let him anywhere near me. I was petrified of him, so I would only let John, teach me. And back in the day, my instructor put up with quite a bit, and so I was just one of those very timid, very shy, not sure of myself at all, ladies. And it actually took me, like I said, until green belt to do my first key up. But thank goodness, Master Zampino and John stuck with me, and once I started to get, my footing and get a little confidence, things started to change for me. So.
So you're even mentioning, I mean, like when I was talking with your niece, Shay Harper Smith, in a podcast, she mentioned to me that, you know, you're such a strong woman. And honestly, everybody who knows you would say you're the strongest woman ever. But when we were talking, I mentioned to her that I noticed that as strong as you are and as strong as of a leader that you are for a lot of women and men, but women in particular, I could see that you had a sensitive side to you. I can.
Yeah.
Because I think that you're not afraid to show people that in you. And I think that's probably why you're so successful in what you do.
I think I'm probably half my mom and half my dad, because my dad was extremely strong. I mean, when you talk about strong, silent type, that was my dad. You don't show emotion. You don't show fear. You don't show anything that depicts weakness. You know, I mean, God bless him, but he wasn't very affectionate. You know, didn't really express himself. And if he did speak, you paid attention, because it was like, oh, okay, he's got something to say. You know, where my mom was the exact opposite. She wore her heart on her sleeve. Very, very affectionate, very emotional. You know, very verbal. So I think, you know, I'm kind of half and half. And I think I push more towards my dad, because, you know, I was the middle child. So, you know, I was kind of quiet and kind of kept to myself kind of thing. But when I need to be, if I need to be, you know, I will step outside and be there for somebody, or comfort them, or say what needs to be said. I'm probably not good at receiving it, but, you know, if I need to show it, I can if I need to, you know.
So when you were a teenager, you're 17 years old, you're starting this taekwondo. Did you know back then that you would be here today?
No.
Like, did you know that this was in you?
No, absolutely not. No, I had no idea that this would be what I turned into. I mean, I think that God put me on a path, and that was it, you know, and that path. I mean, once I started taekwondo, for some reason, I never stopped, ever. I mean, I'm going on my 39th year, and I've never stopped. I mean, even with, you know, jobs or moving or loss or anything, I never stopped. And I don't know why that is, but it's always been something that has always driven me. And I can't see myself ever stopping. I'm always going to be involved in it somehow, some way. So,
do you remember your first fight, or take me back to like when you started fighting? Like, what was that like? It must have been crazy, because you were so introverted, right?
I was sparring whenever we sparred at the school. Way back then, I cried because I didn't want to spar. Myself, and there was only 3 women in the entire school at the time. It was all men.
Taekwondo's changed a lot since then.
Yes. It was just me and 2 other ladies in the school. One was a green belt, one was already a black belt. Lori Skiff, what's up? And so it was just us 3. And my instructor had a very strong thing where the men treated us the same. They didn't treat us like women, because he said if you're going to get hit, they're not going to hit you like a woman. They're going to hit you like a man out in the street or whatever. And we also had the premise that, you know, you started sparring right from white belt, you know, and you got right in there and you sparred. And so I used to cry, you know, every time, get your sparring gear on, I used to cry. And I was like, and right up until green belt. And then I finally got over crying and just knew that was part of the class. And then, but as far as competition, I literally lost everything I put my foot in for 2 solid years, almost 2.5 years, up until I was red belt. I lost matches after matches after matches because I could not control my emotions. I would let my emotions get the best of me. I would lose my temper. You know, if I got behind on points, I'd wind up, you know, flipping out. Just very emotional. And that was for 2 years. I lost everything. And it got to be a standard joke in the school, you know, how long would I last? Because I would lose, I'd get disqualified, whatever, you know. So, and then my instructor said to me, if you're going to continue to fight, You have to start competing in forms, or else I'm not going to let you compete in sparring anymore. And I said, why? I don't like doing forms. And he said, because you need to get control of yourself. And I'm competitive, as I found out. So once he said that, I decided I was going to do forms and I was going to win.
And tell everybody what forms are.
Forms are basically a pattern, just putting punches and blocks and kickings together to form what they call pumse or hyung, which is a form. And it's supposed to look as if you are defending yourself against multiple attackers. So it's beauty, it's grace, it's patience.
Very different from fighting.
Very different. I mean, just the total opposite. It's where your body is, where your mind is. Everything has to happen at the same time. And so it does. It teaches you to calm down. It teaches you to be patient. It teaches you to control your mind. And I tell my students to this day, your mind is your strongest weapon. And it's true. Again, once I decided, okay, I got to do forms, I want to win. So I started practicing, and I started winning at forms. And lo and behold, I started winning in my matches because I would be calm. If I started losing, I wouldn't flip out. I would just wait for the opportunity and, that kind of thing. So I think that was really the turning point, was when he forced me to do forms, I think. So
your mind is your strongest weapon.
In anything, in all of life. Anything. Your mind is your strongest weapon. Absolutely.
It's so true, because your mind can work for you or against you.
Absolutely. People, yeah. I mean, and I've been on both sides of it, so, yeah. I've been my worst enemy at times, and and my biggest advocate. So, yeah.
I think most of us are like that. Most women. I don't know about guys. I can't speak for guys, but I think most of us women get so mental about things. And I'll admit something. I was really mental about starting this podcast, and because I know I'm going to be talking to all these strong people who have overcome the mental. We all have this weird thing in our brain where it's almost like the intersection. And I was speaking with somebody, and I thought about it. I was afraid of success or failure. A lot of people are afraid of the step right before that, and that's the risk and attacking the risk. And so it's almost like you're speaking about that as well. It's like once you controlled your mind and dealt with the win or lose, or somebody kicked me, or I'm going to knock them out. Once you got past that, you stepped back and you almost found like this zen, this serenity, this ability to think within the storm.
Right. Yes, exactly. The ability to calm the storm enough that you can think. Yes, perfect example.
So when did you go from, hey, I'm winning, this is fun, I'm taking home some medals or trophies, to I want to win the women's middleweight gold. I want to make national team.
What a lot of people don't know about my career is I was a point fighter before I started with the Olympic fighting.
And they're very different.
Maybe
we can tell people what that is.
Yeah, point fighting is basically a game of tag, and it's not to put anything away from point fighting, because point fighting is very strategic as well. Mm-hmm. I mean, your muscle reflex has got to be dead on. So it's not anything to take away from it. It's just a different strategic way of fighting.
And every time you get a point, they reset you. As opposed to
point. Right.
Olympic.
Right. Olympic, you have to have that stamina, because Olympic is just like boxing. You just keep going until the end of the round. Mm-hmm. Right. So I was a point fighter for a good 10, 15 years before I switched over. And I was well known on the point circuit, too. I mean, at the time...
So now you're like in your 20s fighting.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
20s, almost 30s,
point fighting, I think I fought until I was 25, I think.
Yeah.
And, and they had a national ranking system. And I was, at that time I was ranked... number one in the country in point fighting. I would go between number one and number two with a young lady named Vicki Donovan. Her and I used to go back and forth, number one, number two position. I was ranked in Black Belt Magazine, and that kind of thing. And then it was announced that taekwondo was going into the Olympics. And I remember at the time, I was still getting in trouble for making too much contact, because you can't make a lot of heavy contact in point fighting.
Yeah.
You have to score the point, but also show the control. And so I still had a tough time with that. And so my instructor was like, hey, this is perfect. You know, Taekwondo's going to the Olympics. It's full contact. This is right up your alley. And I was like, okay, let's do this, you know. But again, another hurdle. It was a total different way of fighting. Just a 180. So the first time I fought Olympic, I had no idea what I was doing. I looked ridiculous. But I placed high enough where I could go. I qualified to go away to a camp at the United States Olympic Training Center. I ended up fourth in the country at that point. I was in '86.
Wow.
And that was only because there was like 6 girls, so it wasn't like, it wasn't like, you know, I battled everybody. No, I was like,
wow, she just
I lucked out and beat 2 girls.
Oh, okay.
You know, on my way in.
It's still pretty impressive. You still got into the ring.
Then, but I remember when I decided to do it, the first thing I did is I bought a book that had the top women in my division. That was the first thing I did, and I went right to the number 1 person, and her name was Sharon Jewell, and I circled it. I said, that's who I got. That's who I got to get to. And so I remember that. And sure enough, I fought her, and she's who I lost to take fourth. But we battled, and we clashed because we were both very passionate, so to speak. We both had a lot of attitude during the match. and basically during that match, I was like, hello, my name is Mechelle. We're going to be knowing each other for a while. And she wound up winning, but I qualified to get to the camp. Went to the camp, was absolutely devastated because I had no idea about the drills, the footwork, everything was different. Point fighting, your very front leg. At that time, Olympic fighting was very back leg. Back leg orientated. You had to hit as hard as you could with that back leg. In order to score a point, you couldn't just tap. You had to really hit and that kind of thing. And it was full contact. So I was absolutely devastated, called home, crying. I suck. I'm awful. And I called my brother, my mother, my instructor. I want to come home, all 3 of them. Stay out there. You're good enough to be there. All you got to do is, that kind of thing. Yeah. Very encouraging. So I stayed through the camp, came home, and just worked. Worked until my feet were bloody every single day. Every day. Worked on footwork, worked on my timing, my speed, every day. And it was tough because nobody did that around here. It was very new. Nobody fought it. And I had nobody to train with. My instructor had no idea how to even hold pads for me because he didn't, it was very new to him too. So I was on my own. And, there's a commercial on TV where the poor kid is like throwing the ball at the garage because his dad's away. Yeah. And he's got, the mitt taped up on the garage. That was what I felt like. I'm like, I had nobody. But I had this goal, and I was like, so I just trained and trained and trained and trained every single day. So, and then 87, I went back and took gold, and I said, okay, I'm good enough to be on this circuit. And that was it. That's when I knew it. So, but I still struggled. I struggled a lot with, am I good enough? Can I maintain this? Everybody knows everybody except me. I'm the new kid on the block. Nobody knows me, that kind of thing. So I still struggled, but I knew what I wanted to do. So,
how did you push through that? Because I think, the hardest thing is the mind.
Yeah,
just
absolutely.
Pushing through the negativity, even though you're good.
Yeah.
You still have that negativity.
I had a tough time because I had in which I can say now, but I didn't say it back then in any interviews that I did because I didn't want anybody to know, but I have a lot of nerve damage in my left leg because I have a severe curve in my spine, and it curves into my left hip joint. So my left leg was basically useless, and I couldn't let anybody know that.
Right.
So stretching was painful to me. Certain drills were very painful to me, but I couldn't tell anybody because once somebody gets that, they're going to stay on your bad side.
Right. Yeah.
So I had to figure out how to do that. So I knew I had to be stronger than anybody else in my division. I knew I had to be faster because I basically was working with one leg. So I knew I had to be faster. So I had to work on my speed. I knew that my timing had to be dead on. And I had to spin more than the average person. because I had to make up a lot. To give the appearance of both legs, I had to be fast with my one leg. I had to be able to hit it and spin, or hit it and whatever, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I just basically used my left leg as a setup leg that people, didn't realize. So it was tough. It was painful, but what I tell my students nobody's gonna feel sorry for you. You gotta do what you gotta do. So I just focused on that. I did a lot of visualization. I used to write down every practice, what I thought I did good. I write down what I thought I did bad, what I still need to work on. Every practice I wrote. So I was a big writer.
What did that do for you?
It was good because at night I would read it. I would read it back and just keep reading it. And it was that visual reinforcement, you know what I mean? So the next time I went to practice, I knew what I had to work on, or what, that kind of thing. Today I felt really good. Today I sucked. I shouldn't have ate that last night. That wasn't a good idea, that kind of thing, So that reinforcement. Whereas now, technology today, you can kind of do that, with your GoPro or whatever. You can hook it up and kind of watch video of yourself. Back then, we didn't really have that, so.
Talk about visualization and how that helped you.
For me personally, it helped me quite a bit because, again, I knew there's always in the back of my mind that I had that physical limitation with my spine and my hip. And I was the shortest player in my division. Everybody was taller. Everybody was taller than me.
How tall are you? You're
I'm
pretty tall.
5'7".
Oh, okay. I'm taller than you.
Yeah, everybody. I thought I was tall for a female, but man, when I get into that middleweight division, everybody's taller than me. I think Sharon was just maybe an inch or two taller than me, but everybody else was just the tallest. She was 6'3".
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so there was some things I had to learn how to fight on the inside. But the one thing that I learned that I could carry over from point was my hands. I had very fast hands. So what I did was I brought my punch to the body, because you could punch to the body, and nobody punched back then. So I just brought a monster body punch into my game, which really kind of equalized the height that they had or the legs that they had. Because, I tell my students now, your hands are the quickest thing you're going to be on the mat. Your hands are quicker than the fastest foot. So I brought that, and that kind of threw everybody off too. So, I had to learn to work within my limitations and make it work for me. I couldn't be what the other girls were. I wasn't tall. I wasn't full split material. So I'm not gonna try and be another fighter. I'm just gonna be who I am, and try and capitalize on what I can do. So
I think everybody can learn, even just outside in all of their whatever they're doing in life. You just got to be whoever you are.
Yeah.
Stay in your lane.
Yeah, you can't be the person next to you. You're not the person next to you.
Yeah.
You're you. So yeah.
So I know that you had you and I've talked about this personally. I hope you're willing to talk about it now. But you said you really wanted to be on that Olympic team.
Yes.
And I know that
yes.
was that was a tough time in your life.
Very.
Talk about this. You're training for the Olympics.
Yes.
What's going on here? Bring us back to that time.
Well, yeah, it's like yesterday to me. And me and my teammates, we joke, we get over it, get past it, move past it. And I'm like, never.
So you're on the national team. This is the national team. Okay.
Yeah,
What year
88.
is this?
This is 88.
Okay.
Well, 87, I was the national champion in 87. So because I was national champion in 87, I did not have to participate in the nationals for 88 and a lot of people didn't because they didn't want to run that chance of getting injured.
Right.
You could just go in as a wild card to team trials. So I went in, into the division as a wild card. And team trials is basically the top 6 in the division. Okay, the top 4 from nationals and 2 wild cards. So those 6 ladies, we all fight each other in a round robin, 3 rounds, 3 minutes. All right, and then at the end of it, whoever the number 1 fighter is the number 1 fighter. Whoever the number 2, so whoever has the most wins is the number 1 fighter. I had the most wins, so I was the number 1 fighter at team trials. Sharon was number 2, and I had beat Sharon in 87. And at a couple of Olympic festivals. So you have Olympic festivals, which are considered today's U.S. Opens.
Mm-hmm.
So I had beaten her. So I'm the number 1 person going into the finals. Sharon is number 2. A month later, we have finals in Raleigh, North Carolina. Her and I are matched up. It's just, that's it. Whoever wins makes the Olympic team. I go out there and this is my opinion, but I pretty much dominated the match. I hit her where I needed to hit her. My hits were clean. I blocked her good. I moved good. Did everything I was supposed to do. And my coach at the end of the second round said, you're winning. And back in this day, you did not have the screens.
So they didn't have the screen to know what points are.
You don't know what the points are.
Okay, all right.
Back in that day, the official sat on the corner and they did it on a score pad that they had. And in between the rounds, they would hand in the score pad and circle the fighter that they thought won that round. So you didn't know where you were. So my coach said, you've got this, you've got the match. Go in and dominate the third round because it's Sharon. She's the standing champion for all these years. You have to make it significant. Okay, so I go in there, bada boom, do what I need to do. And we get there, and we're in the middle of the ring, and I feel the center referee squeeze my hand, and then I felt him release his squeeze, and I knew it right there. They raised her hand. And I was just, I remember just being devastated. I was devastated because I knew I had won. And she's, overjoyed because she just made the Olympic team, and I'm just standing there kind of shell-shocked and just looking around. I wouldn't leave the ring. I started, crying. Wouldn't leave the ring. They're trying to get me to leave the ring. I won, that kind of thing. And finally, I leave, and I couldn't believe it. And we were at the Olympic Training Center. We were all staying there at the facility where we were. And I remember one of the other middleweights, who I'll name nameless because I just don't want to pop names up there, but I respected him greatly. And he came to my room that night, and he knocked on the door. And he said, and he was very blunt, and he said, "Mechelle, do you know why you lost?" And I said, "Herb, did lose." I said, "I respect you." He was our team captain. I said, "But I didn't lose." And he said, "No, do you know why you lost?" I said, "Tell me why I lost." And he said, "Because you didn't give them what they wanted." And I said, "What is that?" And he said, "They like Sharon's fighting style." I go, "That makes no sense to me." And he goes, "They feel she has the best chance to win in Korea." Or was it Barcelona? Korea, which one was it? Barcelona, I think. And I said, "I don't accept that." And, so we agreed to disagree. And then, so the next day I go back because my friends are fighting for their team spot. I go back, and sure enough, throughout the day, unbeknownst to the officials, but apparently I had been so devastated in the ring that it caught their attention. One official in my ring would come up to me and said, "I was an official in your ring. I'm sorry, but I just need you to know I scored you the match." And I said, "Thank you, sir." Going throughout the day, official came up to me. "I was an official in your match." So long story short, 3 out of the officials out of 5 came up to me during the course of that day and told me that they scored me the match. So I should have been on the team. So something a little fishy went on there with the paperwork or whatever. But, it is what it is. I went up to Sharon and I shook her hand and I wished her good luck. She's teammate. She's representing USA. I said, "Go over there and do well." I wish, it wasn't her fault. She had nothing to do with it. So I wished her well. But that was my, whatever they call it. And it's been on me forever because in my mind, I knew I won. It was verified. Inadvertently, they didn't know because by the third referee that said that, when I said that to him, his face went blank, meaning, what did I just do? That kind of thing. Yeah. And, it happens. I'm sure it's happened to other people. They had their reasons why they wanted Sharon as their middleweight that year.
How did Sharon go on to do?
She wound up with bronze.
Bronze.
Yeah. wound up, and she's a very nice person. Like I said,
No, it's not.
don't hold anything against her.
I don't think anybody would think that it's about her.
Yeah, I mean, she was the reigning champion
Yeah.
before I got there. Maybe they felt internationally she would have more experience than me. They had their reasons.
How did you mentally get
I didn't.
past that?
I didn't. That was really a very bad time in my life.
Yeah.
Very bad. I went on a very self-destructive path after that, personally. Mm-hmm. And, I was angry and, I was disrespectful. I did things that were very self-destructive, personally. Mm-hmm. And I never... And once I figured out, you got to stop, because 1992 was coming around. So I had to start training for that. I mean,
You're like, I got
stuff
chance.
to do,
Yeah.
and then I had to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. So, I had originally taken the state trooper exam prior to the 88 games, and I was chosen to go into a class, but I had to turn it down because of the 88 games. So I kind of put that on hold. So I picked that back up. I took the test again. Was fortunate enough to score high enough to get into a class. And, so in 1989, I became a trooper. So that's kind of like, what do you want to do when you grow up kind of thing.
Did that change your trajectory? Did it change your mind about competing for
Didn't change my mind,
1992?
Didn't change my mind. I still kept training as best I could, through the, I went through a 6-month thing with the troops. You go away for 6
Mm-hmm.
months, you come home on the weekends. When I got home, I put on my uniform and went to class, no matter how tired I was. After class, I went to the library, studied, because you had a lot of studying to do, and then I went back to the academy. So I did that, and
So did you go for the 1992 team, or
I did.
Yeah.
I did. I took time off in 1991, and I told the troops I was doing that right when I signed up. I said, in 91, I'm going to take time off because I got to train for the Olympics. They were like, fine. They were supportive of that. Came back in 91, took the national title again in 91. And then in 92, they didn't have enough funding for all 4 weight classes. So there was a lot of craziness going on in 92. But long story short, I wound up, they did not send the middleweight division to the Olympics for 92. So I wound up trying out for the Pan American team, which they were sending all 8 weight divisions.
Oh.
So I went to the Pan American team trials and won the team spot for the Pan American Games, and did Pan American Games, the championship, and wound up winning Pan American Games, and wound up beating the silver medalist from the 92 Olympics.
Wow.
For the gold. So that was, kind of cool.
Kind of cool.
Kind of cool.
A little bit of like,
Yeah, that
look
was
at me now.
Yeah, that was a little bit of, you should have chose me. I had a big chip on my shoulder.
Yeah.
It was-
Understandably so, though. I
yeah.
mean,
I was, every time I fought, it was always, you guys should have picked me in '88. That was my big chip on my shoulder, kind of thing. So.
you might call it chip. I might say fuel.
Fuel
Focus,
for them, yeah, sure.
focus.
Yep.
But I
Yeah.
think that experience is a lesson in perseverance.
Yeah.
That's part of your life. Like you persevered over a huge.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I
Obstacle.
tell people all the time, when stuff gets in your way, I got a story for you. I tell them all the time, oh, ma'am, I got cheated out. I got a story for you. Sit down.
Yeah.
So in other words, I don't really, get over it. That's, people say, oh, you got to be more nope, get over it. Because you know what? Nobody's going to feel sorry for you. So, people tell me, oh, I got robbed. Yep, sit down. I got a story for you.
Yeah.
So, and put it in perspective.
So when did you go from competing, a Pan American champion, to when did you go from competing to I want to share my knowledge with others and open up a school?
Well, my right hip started to deteriorate. I made a U.S. Cup team to go to Korea in 2001. And I had beaten Korea here on U.S. soil and took gold at a U.S. Cup championship. And then I made another team to go to Korea in 2001. And I said to myself, if I win in Korea, beating Korea, then I'll retire. So I made the team, went to Korea, won. And I knew as I'm fighting, my leg is just not as fast as it used to be, and this and that. I mean, I knew I was kind of on the way down anyway. I mean, I won. Basically, I was just, I won off of experience. But I said, you know, if I go over there and I win, I'm going to go out that way. So I did that, and that's when I retired. And then I started mostly training, you know, start coaching students, stuff like that. Because prior to that, I would coach and teach, coach and teach, coach and teach, but I was also, you know, I'm still competing, so I'm still caring about myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of teaching, kind of coaching my students, but I'm caring about myself. But when I actually retired, I could put all my focus into my athletes. And that's what I did. I just, you know, started do that. But unfortunately, because of my experience, I did not put them on the which is now known as the USAT circuit.
Right.
I kept them away from that because of my personal experience.
And they still don't compete in U.S.
They, my really competitive ones like Shay, Andrew, and I've got some up and coming.
Yeah.
You know, but for the longest time, I didn't want them to experience that. I didn't want them to experience that kind of devastation, because it could happen to them. You know, so I was kind of gun shy about that. So I kept them. We were always AAU. It's always been a good competitive organization, so I kept them there. And then when a few of them started saying, you know, ma'am, I want to try out for this team, ma'am, I want to try, you know, I was like, okay, but you got to be
ready.
Mentally prepared, you know. So then, you know, probably within the last 5 years, I put them back on USAT. Yeah.
So when did you start Michelle's Way? Taekwondo?
1986.
1986. Do you know how many black belts you've...
Or 1996. 96.
96?
96. Yes.
Do you know how many black belts you have trained up, or is that a number that's hard to keep track of?
That I've promoted?
Yeah, that you have...
gosh, I don't know. Since 96 was that 20 years, so maybe 20, 25.
That's not a lot, though.
Yeah, I don't promote that,
yeah. But it takes a lot to become a black belt.
Yes.
You know, it's not just, I mean, I think a lot of, there's a difference between schools, I should say that.
Yeah, there are. Yeah.
So you can get a black belt.
Yes.
And you can get it in a couple years.
Yes.
But getting it through a reputable school that offers lifelong training, it takes longer.
Yeah, I'm probably what's known as old school. I'm very old school when it comes to rank and promoting. You know, not that there's anything wrong with what people do today. Everybody has their own thing. You know, I try not to judge.
I'm giving you funny looks
I know,
because I think there is something
yeah.
wrong with that, because I have children who compete in Taekwondo,
Yeah.
and I know you have to earn it.
I tell my students, don't worry about what's going on next to you, worry about you.
Yeah.
You know, and that I've always been a firm believer in that. If somebody chooses to promote quickly, you know, I can't step in and tell them what to do, but all I'm worried about my black belts. I take great pride in it. Master Hassan's students take great pride in it. Master Zampino's student, you know, there are many schools who take pride in making their students earn it. And some people are a little new wavy, and they go along with, you know, well, if you train every day, then you can get your black belt in under a year and a half. But again, your mind has to grow with your body, and I don't think you can be mentally a black belt in a year and a half.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
So.
Okay, so you teach students. Your life experiences are, I mean, truly a blessing to pass along to these students. What do you teach them about perseverance? I know that there are certain the tenets of Taekwondo, and there are things that that you teach them day in and day out. So, what do you teach them to be their successful self?
I teach them basically whatever makes you successful, or whatever your goal is. It can be anything, you know, like this year, our motto is, what type of champion do you want to be this year? And I don't just mean in the ring. Do you want to be a champion in academics? Do you want to be a champion in being a better role model at your school? Do you want to be a better champion of helping out that guy who's been bullied all last year? Go over there, pat him on the back, and let him know he has a friend this year. It doesn't necessarily mean in the ring. Just what type of champion do you want to be for 2017? And that's kind of every year I try to give them something different to think about. You know what I mean? I try and get them to think about, just good morals, being a good citizen. I try and get them to think about, we got one earth, let's do the best we can with it, kind of thing, And again, when life hits you in the face with a round kick, you can cry about it or you can wipe it off, take it like a boss, and move on. So, and I try and teach them to take it like a boss and move on. So that's about it.
You kind of do that with life too, huh?
Got to do it with life, because I'll tell you what, life is a mess. It's crazy, and it can drive you insane, or you can take it head on and try and do the best you can. You know what I mean? So, my family has suffered loss, great loss, and we can feel sorry for ourselves, or we can accept the fact that God has a plan. And, whatever life we have left, you have to live it to the fullest. You have to live it to the best of your potential. You have to make somebody proud of you. Doesn't matter who it is.
And live in their honor.
Yes,
right?
And live in their honor. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and I know the old Mechelle. The old Mechelle was, I hate everybody. Everything happens because this and shake your fist at the heavens. And that type of personality gets you absolutely nowhere. So I tried it that way. It didn't work. So figured it out that, life is a blessing. Let's do something with it. Let's do something positive. Bring somebody else along if you can. Ever since I took on that mantra, life has been good.
How can people find you?
I'm on Facebook, Mechelle's Way Taekwondo, Mechelle Smith, also over here on Watt Street.
That's right. Come on down to Schenectady.
Come on down to Schenectady, Crosstown Plaza.
New York. Uh-huh.
MW Taekwondo. Yeah.
And if you're ever at a competition, people can come up and just
absolutely.
learn.
Come up and say hello.
She's really tall, and you might think she's intimidating, but she's really a teddy bear, I think.
I am. I'm a teddy bear.
So, Mechelle Smith, thank you so much for speaking with me. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a true honor. You were top of my list of one of the people I wanted to talk to. So
well,
I really
just wanted
appreciate
to tell you that you are a role model, and you should never doubt yourself, girl, because I look at you and I'm like, go ahead. So,
Thank you.
whenever you have an idea, you go ahead and go for it, because you're awesome.
Thank you. That means a lot. That really does mean a lot.
I mean that from my heart.
I appreciate it. So that was Master Mechelle Smith, and if you like what you're hearing, please let me know. Subscribe and leave me a great review, because it helps to tell people how awesome this podcast is. And also, don't forget to tell your friends. Tell your friends about what's going on. I'm JoDee Kenney, and here's to finding your secrets to success.